program written by Krishna Reciprocates. Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
faster. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
First Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everybody, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Hare
Rama 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 Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you so much. We have time. Okay, bro. Okay. Okay.
We can have another time.
Okay, bro. Okay. No.
They want to do it.
Kimberly.
Okay. Bye.
We'll leave the gap here. Mataji, move forward.
This ray is not working.
You are
Okay,
good,
I will avoid that one.
You can see
I didn't know I was going to sing.
the gap.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Prabhuji also can move forward. Yeah. That allowed me.
Oof. Gotta avoid that one, huh?
I think
Yeah, I can play all those.
Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pisaya Bhutale, Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine. Sadhgurudaya Krishna Pisaya
Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Swami Nityanamine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prajamine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Dishatanine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachyatya Dishatarine.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasade Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasade Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama
Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Hare Bol
Hari Bol
Hare
Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Prabhupada
Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Anita Gopamanande.
thank you, devotees. After Sunday Fish program, attending this bit tough, but you make it. Now, to the continuation of yesterday one, yesterday we had tips to pray Lord Shri Krishna. Now the reciprocates, the second part is Krishna reciprocation to our prayers. We are very fortunate to have His Grace Radhika Ramana Prabhu. So, thank you, Prabhu, for your association. Once again, we want to hear more from you. We will have the second part now. With that, we will welcome Radhika Ramana Prabhu by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Over to you, Prabhu.
So, thank you all so much for coming to part 2 this evening. I know you've already had a full day of hearing and chanting, so thank you for coming again. And I'm sorry I'm a little late. We were getting a very nice tour of your land and facilities here, and I was envisioning what Janmashtami is like here. Prabhu was showing me all the different stations and exhibits and Janmabhoomi and the breaking of the butter pot and everything. So it was, and also a vision for the future. So it was really inspiring and exciting to see everything here. Today we begin with, or do the second half of the seminar on tips for talking to Krishna, on how to pray to the Lord. And last time, yesterday, we did the first half, which was how do we approach the Lord in prayer when we have a request. So we talked about what are the why we should come to Krishna, even if we have material desires, even though that's not ideal, but yet it's so wonderful to come to Krishna. And we talked about some of the benefits of coming to Krishna rather than going anywhere else. And then we talked about the specific steps that we use to approach the Lord. Anyone remember the first step, what that was? Yeah. Namaha, right? Offering obeisance to Krishna. Every prayer begins with bowing down before Krishna. And we talked about the different levels of offering obeisances, what it means. On the very surface, offering obeisances, the first level is what? You remember? Yeah, it means just recognizing God's dominance, right? Where He's great, we're small. But at a deeper level, it's offering of our false ego to Krishna. And saying that all that I'm proud of, now I surrender to you. And then at a yet deeper level, it refers to what? Yes. Offering your body, mind, and heart, or body, heart, and words to the Lord. Like Lord Brahma says, Hridvag Vapurbhir. And then that final piece is offering of your own heart to Krishna, right? So anyway, we talked about offering of obeisances. That was the first step. Then the second step, you remember? Yes, praising Krishna, yeah, glorifying Him. Before we get into our challenge or our problem or our issue, to spend a little time just thinking about Him. And then finally, third, of course, we can present our problem to Krishna. So, and we also spoke about the importance of Krishna's holy names in all of this, in the whole process. So today we want to look at how Krishna responds, or what kind of response we can expect. So we've done our steps in terms of prayer. Now, how will Krishna respond? Yes. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, so how does Krishna respond? How can we expect him to respond to our prayers? Krishna responds in many different ways we see in Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes he arrives on the back of Garuda, flying down from the sky, like he did with Gajendra, the elephant, who called him for help, and Krishna arrived on the back of Garuda and killed the crocodile. Sometimes he may appear in the core of our heart, like he did for Narada Muni in his previous life. When Narada Muni meditated on Krishna, then Krishna gave him darshan in his heart. Other times he may appear before us, like he did with Dhruva Maharaj, right, when he wanted for his help. And then sometimes he can come in very, very majestic ways, like he did for Prahlad, where he jumped out of a pillar as a half man, half lion, and tore apart Hiranyakashipu. So Krishna can appear in any way he likes, right? But what about us? In what way might he appear for us? Since we may not feel ourselves as qualified as Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruva Maharaj or even Gajendra in our intensity of prayer for the Lord. So that's kind of the question. I think one thing it's important to keep in mind before we discuss the details is that we should not necessarily confuse physical safety with Krishna's protection. Sometimes when we're offering a prayer, we have a certain expectation for how we think Krishna should respond. Because we're asking Krishna because we need good health. So Krishna should be able to take care of this health problem and make it disappear. Or we're looking for a good job and we have a particular kind of job in mind. And so Krishna should give us that. And so we have often certain expectations. It's quite natural. When you go to someone asking for something, then you have a vision in mind of what they might be able to do. And often because of that, we can assume that Krishna's protection means that he will protect us physically. Right? But that really is up to Krishna, how he wants to protect. He always does. Right? There's no question of that. But how he wants to do is up to him. And we see that very often in a devotee's life, Krishna can act in unusual, extraordinary ways that the devotee themselves does not expect for Krishna to act. And it's only later we realize that Krishna was actually being very merciful. In the moment, it may seem very unexpected or even not what we want. I'll give you a couple examples. I remember some years ago speaking to one devotee, a very wonderful devotee, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who lives in Europe. And he was telling me about how some years ago, now it must be a decade or more, he was diagnosed with cancer. And it was internal type cancer. I forget what kind it was. But he, when he was first diagnosed with cancer, he really felt a sense of abandonment by Krishna. He felt like, after serving you my whole life, and he really did, and he continues to, really extraordinary service, dedicated service, not as a hobby on the side. He said, after everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me for all my service? And he said that he still remembers after the scan that revealed the extent of the cancer. And then he was heading to a different part of the hospital. And hospitals are very sterile places. There's good reason for that. but it can be even like very not very inspiring as a place to be. And he was walking in this tunnel, this passageway, hallway, connecting two buildings, right? And long hallway, white walls, white floor, fluorescent bulbs, and you couldn't quite see the end of it. And he just felt a sense of like being completely alone, just like he was no light at the end of the tunnel, sort of thing. And so for some time he was feeling some upset towards Krishna. And then he started treatment and things, the prognosis was looking good. The cancer was under remission. And one day he visited his oncologist, who said, I don't know if I've told you this before, but I want to tell you that, you know, you came in for a regular annual checkup or some small problem. And he said, had your regular physician not felt that something else was wrong and referred you at that time when he did to me, even if it had delayed by a week or two, this cancer would have taken over certain organs in your body where it would have been impossible to get rid of, and you would not be standing today. He said, the timing was so incredible. I really think there's someone up there looking after you. And he said at that point, all these emotions came rushing back, you know, of, oh my gosh, Krishna's here. How could I have ever questioned him? I'm so sorry. You were always here with me, and I just didn't realize it. Krishna's protection doesn't always come in physical ways or in the way we expect it. And looking from the outside, sometimes it can look like to an outsider that Krishna's not protecting at all, that he's being very harsh toward his devotee. But no one knows what is happening in that relationship other than the devotee and Krishna. No one from the outside can tell what's happening. In this particular situation, Krishna took some time, but he eventually protected this devotee from certain death. But in other instances, he may not, right? And I'll give you one other example in which Krishna did it. So perhaps you know this wonderful devotee named His Holiness Kadambakanana Swami. And so a couple of years ago, I met him. This was the last time I saw him. It was in Salt Lake City because Sadhu Sangha was happening there. So I think 2 times ago, maybe last time was Dallas and then the time before Salt Lake. And he, at that point, he had not announced publicly that he had cancer. But we were speaking on the edges of the kirtan. And I don't know how the topic came up, but he said, you know, I've got cancer and it's quite a serious, it's stage 3 or 4, it's spread all over my body. And I don't want to announce it here because everyone will become very sad and I don't want to ruin the atmosphere of Sadhu Sangha Kirtan Festival. But I'll announce a little later after that. And naturally, I was like shocked and really upset and saddened by this. And he looked at me and he said, Radhika, I don't mind at all. I'm really, really looking forward to this. I've done what I want to in life for Krishna. I've done enough. I've done more than enough. It's time to go to my reward. And so I'm ready. I'm totally ready. I'm going to travel a little bit more. And when my health is not so good, I'll go to Vrindavan. And that's it. And I've already decided who's doing what and carrying on what my work. And it's time to go. And it sounded like you know, someone like me saying, oh, tomorrow I'm going back home to Utah. It was that much, he was that relaxed right? Like, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind staying in Austin another day or two, but I have to go back tomorrow. So I'm going back. It's good, going home. So it was like that. He was so happy and so relaxed. From the perspective of an outsider, again, this is the point. From someone who's not part of that relationship, it can look like, why didn't Krishna protect him? Right? He gave him a slow, painful death from a materialistic perspective. And yet, in the relationship between the Lord and his devotee, there was only happiness there. There was only joy till the very end, right? So we never know how Krishna is going to protect the devotee. He doesn't always protect in the way we expect him to, because our vision of Krishna's protection, of how Krishna needs to act, can be very limited in nature. I'll give you one more example. There's one disciple of Srila Prabhupada who, in the United States, who developed severe dementia, Alzheimer's disease. And he had lost touch with devotees for many years. Like he had kind of drifted in a different direction, lost touch with devotees, but never gave up his attachment to Krishna and to Srila Prabhupada. And eventually, somehow, the devotees, they heard that our godbrother is in end stage, last stages of Alzheimer's in a care facility, and they decided they wanted to go visit him to see how he was doing, and they're very happy that they had found that connection again. The problem was they didn't know his name, as in they knew his devotee name, but not the name he was registered under, legal name, right? So they showed up at the care facility as devotees and dressed like that. Said, "Well, we're here to see someone. This is his the name we know him by, but we don't know what he's." And the woman at the desk said, "Oh, you're the Hare Krishnas." And they said, "Yes." They said, "I know exactly the person you want to meet." And they said, "Why? How do you know?" And she explained, this devotee had such advanced Alzheimer's that he could not remember his own name or any of his family members or what he had done in life. Right? Couldn't remember anything. But for some reason that neither the people there nor he could understand, knew why. For some reason, the one thing that gave him happiness every day was to come to the common room, the parlor room or the game room or whatever. And he would lead everyone there in singing this mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And think about it. Like, this is someone who can't even remember his own name, right? But he can remember Krishna's name. So once again, like, did Krishna protect him? Yes, he did, right? But not in the way that maybe we would imagine, or someone from the outside would think, oh, Krishna should have protected him from the Alzheimer's. Maybe that's just the nature of this material world, right? The nature of this world is such that it's going to bring us trouble. Krishna doesn't promise anything else. He says, Dukhalayam ashashvatam. He says, this world is a place of misery, and it's temporary. That's a good thing. If it's a place of misery and it was eternal, it would be a real problem. So, but I see the second word as actually a positive, right? Dukhalayam is a place of misery, but ashashvatam, it's temporary. So it's going to be over, right? So Krishna promises that in the Gita. He doesn't say, it's going to be a beautiful place and all of that. But so he doesn't promise that it's going to be free of trouble. But what he does promise is that he's going to take his devotee by the hand through that and give them a way to live in this world with dignity and with a sense of protection from him. So whether it's Alzheimer's or cancer or whatever it is, there's something coming for us, right? There's something. There might be a big truck coming for us at some point. Something's coming for us. But Krishna is not going to take this world and turn it into the spiritual world. No, he wants to bring us home, right? But he will help us through whatever it is. And this person, until the very end, the only thing he could remember is Krishna's holy names, right? Krishna's names. And that's why Krishna never left him. And he never left Krishna. He didn't even know why. Didn't even know why, externally at least. One last example. A very good friend of mine was of a Catholic background. And as a young man, he was really, really struggling. Just a great struggle, and considering even taking his own life. And one day he went to church and he kneeled before God. And he said, in front of the altar, he said, I know I've not been terribly religious my whole life. I've not done what I'm supposed to as a good Catholic. But really, if you're up there, this is the time to tell me, right? Like this, it's not going to get worse than this. So this, please, like, show me you're there. Anything. And it'll give me some hope. He offered his prayer and he turned out and left the church. And he took 10 steps and there was a devotee who came and gave him a book. And the book was called Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he knew there's someone up there. Maybe this is not God as I call him. I don't know, maybe this isn't even true. But there's someone. This can't be a coincidence, right? There's someone who's claiming to know God and giving me a book by his name. So he's here. So in this way, Krishna, he responds in the way that he pleases. And it can be very unusual, but he's always there for his devotee. In times when we don't often recognize that he's there, that we may feel in fact abandoned by him, he's still very much there. And sometimes we only see it much later in life. Right? In hindsight, we look at it and we say, maybe you've had this experience, some difficult experience, something very challenging. And in the moment, it feels terrible. And a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, the worse it is, the more time it takes. So far down the road, we look back and we think, wow, that experience really made me who I am. This was actually Krishna's mercy towards me. There's this wonderful song in English, perhaps you've heard it before, called Footprints in the Sand. It's a hymn. And if you haven't heard it, it's wonderful. Someone is singing to God and saying, all throughout my life, when I look at my life's history, I see that you've always walked beside me. There's always been footprints in the sand, 2 footprints in the sand, mine and yours, always together. And I'm very happy about that. But I see that during the most difficult times in my life, I feel very sad, very abandoned, because in those when I needed you most, Lord, there was only one set of footprints. And then in the song, the Lord responds, and he says, yes, there's only one set of footprints because those were not yours, those were mine. Right? So in this way, Krishna is there, but he sometimes appears in ways that we don't expect. And I think that's the first place to remember in terms of answering our prayers, is that Krishna is not stereotyped, Prabhupada says. Krishna is not stereotyped. We expect him. He also says in the story of Narada Muni, he says, bhakti is not a mechanical process. There is no mechanical way in which we can force Krishna to respond in the way that he wants. Narada Muni, in his previous life as a young boy, he does meditation, and he does a particular process by which he sees Krishna in his heart. And he becomes so happy, and he wants to see him again. And he does exactly the same thing again, and Krishna doesn't appear. And Prabhupada explains, bhakti is not a mechanical process. We are dealing with a person. And just because you dialed this number and reached me the first time, doesn't mean you can dial the same number and you'll be guaranteed to reach me the second time. That's the person we're dealing with, right? It's not a machine. Machines pick up every single time, but human beings don't. People don't. So, okay, so in our situation, in our circumstance, what can we expect from Krishna? What will he give us? How will he respond to our prayers? And there are, of course, as I mentioned, many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam of how Krishna responds to prayers. But I think particularly useful is the response of how Krishna responds to the demigods when they pray. And here's why. On one level, the demigods are so much more powerful. Indra and Varuna and the Lord of the sky and the waters and the fire. They're so much more powerful and elevated than we are. But one thing they have in common with us is that they are also sakama bhaktas. Their devotion is mixed with some personal desire. And for many of us, that's what we're like too. We want to serve Krishna, but we also have certain desires, certain ways in which we want to serve Krishna, certain things we hope to get from it. So I think it's a nice example. We see in Bhagavatam, Krishna responds to everyone's prayers, not just the pure devotees. He responds definitely to them, but he responds to everyone else as well, right? Everyone from Gajendra, who was just praying because he was in pain, physical pain, to Prahlad Maharaj, who wasn't praying for anything at all. Right? So Krishna responds to all kinds. So with the demigods, I think it's a very good example for us. And in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when the devas, the demigods, are being tormented by Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyakashipu is terrorizing the universe and causing misery for everyone. Everyone from human beings and animals and trees and plants to the demigods in heaven. All were being terrorized by him. After a while, the devas all went to the shore of the ocean of milk, where the Lord is said to reside. And I say that he's said to reside because they did not see him. They could not see him. They usually don't. They go there, and Bhagavatam says they offer obeisances, namaha, in the direction that the Lord resides. Namo tasyai kashthayai. It says kashtha means direction. Tasyai means his. Namaha tasyai kashtayai. We offer our obeisances in his direction. Because they could not see him, but they knew which direction he was in. So this should sound very familiar, right? Like in Islam also. They always bow down towards Mecca, in the direction that the Lord is there. And so the demigods are like, okay, Krishna is in this direction. They offer obeisances to him, namo tasyai kashtayai, and then they offer their plea to Krishna. They praise him. They offer their plea for help. And in response, what they get, what they receive is Krishna's voice. They hear Krishna speak to them. They don't see him still. And I think that's the first lesson for us to take in terms of Krishna's response. When we offer our prayer very sincerely, intensively, we should not expect anything too dramatic as Krishna's response. We want Krishna to descend on the back of Garuda in a blaze of glory through a parting in the skies. That's what we hope for. But honestly speaking, we shouldn't necessarily expect anything that dramatic. He can. Krishna does some, like the stories I told you. Right? Krishna does some really dramatic things. But we shouldn't expect it of him. Even with the demigods, all they could hear is Krishna's voice. And Prabhupada explains in the purport, he says, this shows us that the best way to have darshan, to see Krishna, is through the ears, not through the eyes. As human beings, we have very poor eyesight, especially me. when I take off my glasses is not worth much, right? But the ears are actually pretty good for human beings. We can distinguish greater frequency differences in sound than we can in sight. In sight, I forget how many frames per minute it is, but after a certain number, it becomes a continuous picture. That's why movies work. And old movies, you remember, they're flickering like this. Because there weren't enough. But you just have to increase it a little bit more and it becomes continuous. With hearing, the frequencies have to be much, much faster for us to be unable to distinguish different sounds, right? For them to blend together. Our hearing is much more fine. And as a sense, because it's subtle, it's the way in which we get to have darshan of Krishna. And so when Krishna responds, what we should be looking for is Krishna's voice, not his vision. That's, if he gives the vision, great. But normally, we're going to hear his voice. How? We'll hear his voice through the ways in which he speaks generally. Krishna speaks to us through the medium of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Right? This Srimad Bhagavatam, this is Krishna's form in Kali Yuga. Krishna swadhamo pagate dharma jnana dibhisaha kalo nashtadrishamesha puranarko dhunodita. Right? That when Krishna disappears physically from this world, this is how he appears. This is his body, and this is his voice. Perhaps you've had this experience before of being in some kind of, I've had this experience of really struggling with some question or debating some challenge or being in a difficult situation and not knowing what to do, having considered it in your brain over and over again and not having any solution to it. You just pick up a copy, something from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, one of Prabhupada's books. And as you're reading it, right there, the answer will be. You open up the page. It's happened to me. You open up the page and Prabhupada is speaking exactly the question you have. He's speaking to it. Sometimes he does it right away. Sometimes it takes a little while. But Krishna will speak through these books because these books are alive. They're living. They're not dead. Similarly, through the company of the association of devotees, Krishna will speak through them. And they may not know that they're speaking for Krishna. It's not that devotees go around saying, okay, now I can channel him. This is what you should be doing, right? No, they might be just giving some class, right? Just a normal class and nothing particularly unusual. But they'll say something that's exactly what you need to hear because Krishna is speaking through them. Krishna always does 10 things at once. He's through that one devotee service, he is helping this one person who's struggling with their problem. He is educating this person who's learning the basics of Krishna consciousness, and he's purifying the speaker who is doing this service and improving in their... Krishna is always doing multiple things at the same time. He never does one thing, actually. He's very, very expert, daksha, in whatever he wants to do. So through the words of Shastra, through the words of Guru, through the words of devotees that we respect and trust, and also through our own hearts, Krishna will guide us in terms of, he will speak to us and tell us what we need to hear. He will offer his response to our prayer. Okay. So they hear his voice. The demigods hear his voice. And what does Krishna say? His response is really, really illuminating. The first thing he says, Kyatam etasya dauratmyam. Kyatam etasya dauratmyam. He says, my dear demigods, I know, Jnatam, etasya, of him, Doratmyam, his evil activities, That in itself should immediately give us some relief. The fact that someone knows our pain. When you're struggling through something, the biggest thing that you need is often not a solution, because often there is no solution to the problem. It's just a matter of time, or it'll resolve, in due course. Often you just need an ear, someone to really listen, for someone to know. And when you express yourself, you feel some relief, right? Okay, someone knows. That someone other than me knows and understands. Krishna is the best listener possible, because he's right there in the core of our hearts, and he knows us better than we know ourselves. He's Antaratma, the soul of the soul, the inner soul. And he's saying, Jnatam, I know what you're going through. Krishna's knowing is not the way your husband or wife or mother or father knows. It's something much deeper. In Bhagavad Gita, in the 4 essential verses of the Gita, the last one, chapter 10, verse 11, Krishna says, Tesham evanukampartham aham ajnana jamtama nashayam yatma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. He says, to that devotee who approaches me with love, I, the shining lamp of knowledge within the heart, destroy the darkness of ignorance and show them the way to come to me. He says, I do this evanukampartham, out of compassion or mercy. Now the word he uses there is anukampa. This is a beautiful word for compassion in Sanskrit, mercy. Kampa means to tremble, and anu means with or after. To tremble with someone is compassion, is mercy. When we are very happy about something, really excited, we tremble. And the person who trembles with us, that's called anukampa. When we are afraid, in fear, we tremble. The person who trembles with us means they understand what is our fear. When we are in pain, we tremble in pain. The person who trembles with us, that person is compassionate. Krishna feels our pain because he's right there in our heart. He knows it better than our own parents can know our pain, than our best friend can know our pain, because he is our best friend. He says, Suhridam sarva bhutanam, right? I'm the friend of all living entities. And he understands us in ways that even we cannot understand ourselves. In fact, it's the same word in English. Compassion, passion means pain or suffering. And kam is the Latin prefix for with. To suffer with someone is compassion, which is exactly the same term in Sanskrit. To tremble with someone is compassion, is mercy. So Krishna's there. He's right there in the heart. And he knows, right? And that should immediately give us some relief. When we express ourselves to Krishna, last time you asked, well, why should we? Who was it? I forget who was it who asked, but why should we, why should we express ourselves to Krishna? He knows already. This is why. Because when we tell someone, we feel better. And this is not anyone. It's not a shrink or a psychologist or a friend. This is the best friend, the one who really can understand. So that's the first thing Krishna tells the demigod. Jnatam, I know. And then after he says, I know very well, then he makes a promise to them. He says, tasya shantim karishyami. I will deal with this demon. Karishyami is the future tense. I will do it. Tasya shantim means literally, I will make him peaceful. Because Krishna, when he deals with anyone, he improves them. He liberates them. So he says, Tasya shantim karishyami. I'll make him peaceful. I'll pacify him. He promises. And this is Krishna's promise, not just here. He makes this promise over and over and over again to his devotees. He says in Bhagavad Gita, how many times does he say this? He tells, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. He says, Arjun, you declare it to the world that my devotee will never perish. Name bhakta pranashyati. He says again, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yoga kshema vahamyam. For one who approaches me with unflinching devotion, I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. Yet again, he says in the 12th chapter, he says, Bhavami nachirat partha. Arjun, it doesn't take me long to help my devotee. Nachirat. I do it very quickly. And then again, he says, of course, his famous one, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. Don't fear. Don't lament. Don't worry. I will liberate you. I will protect you. In every chapter, practically, Krishna is making promises left and right to Arjuna. 9th chapter also, he says the same thing. He's promising. And not just in his form as Krishna, in every form, in every avatar, he makes this promise. Even as Lord Ramachandra, he says, Sakrid eva prapanno yas tavasmiti cha yachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etad vratam mama. When Vibhishan is coming to surrender, he's the brother of Ravana, the great demon, the 10-headed demon, who's the enemy, right? And Vibhishan is coming, his brother, to join Lord Ramachandra's camp. And everyone is trying to figure out what to do. And most people are of the opinion that he should be either killed or imprisoned. Because he's the enemy's brother. You can't trust him in a time of war. And Lord Ramachandra hears everyone's opinion. And then he says, well, here's what I think. He says, Sakrideva, if one comes to me even once, a person says, Tavasmi, O Lord, I am yours. Tava asmi, I am yours. And does this in a mood of surrender, prapanna, same word as yesterday, namaha, right? In a mood of surrender. Prapannoyas tavasmiti iti yachate. One time a person says this, abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami. I give them fearlessness every day of their life. Etad vratam mama. This is my solemn vow. And Lord Ramachandra's vow means a lot. Right? He spent his entire life keeping his father's promise, not even his own. That's how much he values vows, promises. And he's willing to trust Vibhishan, even though he hasn't known him at all. Krishna's vow, maybe we don't want to trust so much because he's known as a thief, a butter thief, a thief of people's hearts. He does so many things. But even if Krishna is for a minute, we think he's a little worrisome or not trustworthy or a little crooked, Banke Bihari. But there's one thing that Krishna never fails in. He might give up everything else, but there's one thing he doesn't fail in, and that's in protecting his devotees. Right? Therefore, Krishna gets a very special name as a result of this. What is that name, you know? One who never fails in protecting his devotees, who is infallible. Achyuta. Right? Bhaktavatsala also. He's very dear to his devotees. But he never fails in protecting him. And this is why he's called Achyuta. Prabhupada explains in a purport in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna calls him Achyuta because he's trying to remind Krishna, protect. Why are you making me do this? Why are you making me do this battle if you're Achyuta? But Krishna shows, right? He shows. He breaks his own promise. He promises not to fight, to pick up any weapon in the battle. And yet he breaks that vow to protect Arjun when Arjun's life is in danger. He picks up the wheel of the chariot and attacks grandfather Bhishma. So he makes this promise here to the demigods. He says, Jnatam, I know, I understand. I'm there with you. I empathize. And then he says, Tasya shantim karishyami. I'll take care of it, I promise. But then the last thing he says after that is the most difficult. That's the toughest one. He ends by saying, I will take care of it, but kalam tavat pratikshata. But until that time that I am ready to take care of it, please wait. Kalam tavat, as that long, until that time, pratikshata, wait. Please be patient. And that's probably the most difficult part of awaiting Krishna's response to our prayers. He knows he will do something, but he does it on his own schedule. And he often waits a long time, a little too long. Krishna waits. He always takes his, when Draupadi was calling out to Krishna when she was being insulted in the assembly, Krishna waited till the very last minute to help her. She first called out for help from the king, Dhritarashtra, the blind king. Didn't do much. She called to Dronacharya, Bhishma, and Kripacharya. She asked her husbands, she had 5, and not one of them stood up to help. And when she was out of all options, she called out to Krishna, who was not even there. He's not even there, unlike all these others. Govinda Pundarikaksha Rakshamam Sharanagata. I've sought shelter of you. No one is there who can help me. Please help. And at the very last minute, as Dushasana is pulling those clothes off, Krishna gives her unlimited lengths of cloth to protect her. Again and again, Krishna waits. As a child, I used to think in the story of Prahlad, Krishna puts, his father, Hiranyakashipu, puts Prahlad through so many things, harms him in so many ways. And one of those is when he pushes him off a cliff. So he sends his henchmen up and he pushes him off a cliff. And I used to wonder as a kid, why is it that Krishna catches Prahlad at the bottom of the cliff? You've seen that picture? His henchmen, Hiranyakashipu's henchmen are at the top and they're, pushing Prahlad. And Prahlad is like upside down, twirling, hair flying everywhere, halfway down the mountain. And Krishna's down below, like this. And looking at that picture, I used to think, why down there? Why doesn't Krishna catch him halfway up the mountain? Or right at the top? Or why not even just push the henchmen down and leave Prahlad where he was? Yeah? Means, why does Krishna wait so much? Kalam tavat pratikshata. With the demigods, with Draupadi, with Prahlad. Why does he wait so long? And the reason is because that time period between when we make the prayer and when Krishna acts on it, that gap, that time period is the journey of faith. that time period is when our faith to Krishna is challenged, it's questioned, it's increased as we're heading down the mountain, right? As we're falling. We're pushed off, maybe not in as dramatic ways, but we all get pushed off the cliff at some point. We experience something we're not prepared for. And as we're falling, we're thinking, Krishna will definitely protect me because he's always there for his devotees. And halfway down, we're thinking, he will protect me, right? And 3/4 of the way, Krishna, are you there? Will you protect me? And a little further, the ground is getting closer, and we're thinking, does God even exist? And then at the very last minute, Krishna swoops in and protects us dramatically. And then the devotee's heart bursts out in gratitude. How could I ever question you, my Lord? Why did I ever think that you would not be there for me when you've always been there for me my entire life? You're amazing. You're wonderful. And each time that experience happens, and each time we get pushed, each time our confidence in Krishna increases. We don't worry so much because we've got this whole library of experiences of Krishna's action in our life that we can go back to. This isn't the first time. I remember the last time Krishna protected me, and I was so worried, and yet he came through. I'm sure he will this time too. And the next time, and the next time, and each time our confidence increases in Krishna's protection. So much so that eventually we come to the point where we don't even have to ask Krishna for protection, like Prahlad. Do you know Prahlad goes through so much, right? He's boiled, he's fed poison, he's thrown off a cliff, he's put in a pit of snakes, trampled under elephants, so many things. Do you know how many times he asks Krishna for protection? 0. None, not at all. He's praying so many other things to Krishna, to Lord Nrsimhadev. He has beautiful prayers. He has so much to say, but he never asks him even once, Krishna, please protect me. Not because he doesn't care. Not because I don't mind, Krishna, I'll die, yeah. No, he's not depressed. He's not upset. He's not, suicidal. No. It's because he's 100% confident that Krishna is going to come through. It's not even worth asking because he's so sure. And the reason he's so sure is because he sees Krishna right next to him. This time, the footprints in the sand, he's not looking in hindsight anymore at the footprints. He sees Krishna walking next to him. This is how we meet Prahlad Maharaj for the first time in Srimad Bhagavatam. The first time we meet him, he is in a state of ecstasy. And he is laughing and sometimes crying. Laughing when he sees Krishna, crying when he doesn't see him. He is speaking to Krishna. For him, Krishna is a reality. He's right there for him. And therefore, at this stage in a devotee's life, prayer ceases, it stops to be about asking. And prayer simply becomes an expression of gratitude from the heart of the devotee. Thank you, Krishna. Because there's nothing else to say. There's nothing more to ask now. All the asking we've done, and every time we asked, Krishna came through, sooner or later. And so, at this point then, we're just grateful. Thank you, Krishna. I know you're there. You always will be. I cannot thank you enough for everything that you have given to me. The good and the bad. At that point, we can be like Kadamakanana Maharaj. Thank you, Krishna, for what you're giving me. You know, this is Queen Kunti's situation as well. She has her personal library of events in her life that Krishna has helped with. In her prayers, she talks about how, I remember the time when you helped us when we were in the house of lack, and that house was being burned down. It was built to kill us, and you protected us. I remember the time in the game of dice when you protected my daughter-in-law from certain humiliation. I remember the time when we were in the forest and Durvasa Muni came, hungry with 10,000 disciples, and we had nothing to feed him, and you would have cursed us, and you helped us. I remember the time when we were in the battlefield of Kurukshetra with arrows whizzing in all directions, and you protected us. In each instance, you have protected us. And therefore, she's able to say that famous prayer to him. Vipada santuta shashvat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yatsyat apunar bhavadarshanam. She says, my dear Lord, let all those calamities come again and again. Because so long as those calamities come, every time they came, I was able to see you. And if I see you, then I don't see this material world again. She's asking for more calamities, not because a devotee enjoys suffering. We're not masochists, right? No, sufferings are a problem. It's because she knows that Krishna's there. At this point in her life, she's got enough of a library of events of Krishna's Leela in her own life that she can be so confident as to say, bring it on. Let it all come. I'm not afraid because you're always there. You always will be. When you have that much confidence in your relationship with Krishna. So we too should build our library, our personal library of events, of how Krishna has acted in our life, his pastimes in our life, our own personal Bhagavatam, of how he helped here, and remember how he helped in my life like this. And each time, those are very valuable incidents. You see Queen Kunti remembering them. You see Bhishma Dev remembering the ways Krishna helped him. Every devotee remembers. And we remember those incidents, we value them, and we take strength from them. And we say, if Krishna helped me then, he will help me now. And eventually, we don't even have to ask for that help. We can just be thankful. We can just be grateful. And that's when we know we actually have gratitude. All of us are taught to be grateful for the good things in life, right? They say, count your blessings, and that's a very healthy habit. But imagine this. Real gratitude means when we can be thankful for the bad things in our life. That's what Queen Kunti is doing. That's what Bhishma Dev is doing. That's what all these great devotees do. They look back and they go, wow, thank you not just for the good stuff, the blessings, but thank you for those blessings that came in all these bad shapes. Why? Because those were the times when I got closest to you, when I remembered you most intensely, when you were most present. That's where I learned the most. That's what made me who I am today. So thank you, Krishna, for that. When we can be grateful for the bad things, that's when we know we actually have gratitude in our hearts. And that's when prayer becomes something so wonderful, because it becomes simply an expression of the devotee's own relationship with Krishna. Then when we see Krishna, when we have his darshan, it's something special. Yeah, I know you, Krishna. We've been through a lot together. And I know how you act, what you do. When Srila Prabhupada was on the Jaladuta, there's there on the ship as he was crossing from Calcutta to Boston and then to New York. On the ship, he suffered 2 heart attacks consecutively over 2 days. And if you read his diary, it's very nice. You can read, it's called the Jaladuta Diary, and his original handwriting in the diary itself has been published by BBT. I encourage you to look at it. Very special, very intimate portrait of the life of a pure devotee. And those 2 days, there's no words there. He's just crossed them out with a very heavy, thick line. And then on the 3rd day, he writes that these last 2 days were very difficult. And if it were to happen another 3rd day, I am sure I would not survive. But tonight, my dear Lord, you came to me in a very special way. That night, Krishna came in a dream to Srila Prabhupada, just when he thought that there was no hope. And he had taken over control of the ship. He was the captain of the ship on which Prabhupada was sailing. And all his incarnations were there as well. And they were rowing the ship and reassuring Srila Prabhupada, don't worry, we're in charge, right? We're taking care. It was difficult, but we've not left you behind. And the captain said afterwards that it was the most peaceful, steady crossing of the Atlantic that he had ever done in his career. Normally the Pacific is very peaceful. This is why it's called the Pacific. The Atlantic is very turbulent. He said it was the most calm crossing. And Krishna was in charge. He was the captain of the ship. And so Prabhupada had that confidence because Krishna was there, right next to him. Right? That there's nothing to worry about, nothing to fear. It's not that a devotee does not go through trouble. There is no evidence in scripture of that at all. Every devotee goes through trouble. Krishna never promises anything different. Why? Because we're in the material world. We chose to be here. We're here. This is the nature of the world. But what he does promise is that he'll be right there with us. Right? That's his promise. And he shows that time and time again in the scriptures, in the lives of pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, and eventually in our life as well. Thank you very much for your attention. Hare Krishna. So, do we have time for questions? Okay. Yeah, so.
I have a question, Prabhu.
Okay. Very good.
So I have 3 questions, Prabhu, maybe interrelated to each. So you said Mother Draupadi asked to help from Dhritarashtra and all other dignitaries who were sitting there. And finally she prayed for Krishna. So why didn't she definitely knows the prowess of Krishna, but why didn't she call as a first? That is one question. And how do we...
So maybe we take one at a time. Okay. So Draupadi, so first of all, when pure devotees act, then they act to teach the world, right? They act to teach us. And so with Draupadi's incident, it's a very natural thing. When we are faced with some trouble, we try everything possible to help. And there's nothing wrong with that. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. Means it's often said, God helps those who help themselves. We have to make an effort. We have to try to help. And sometimes that's enough. We try and it works out and we see that as Krishna's help. If the Pandavas had stood up to help her, she would have seen that as Krishna's mercy, right? As Krishna helping. There's that story, you know, the story of someone who is in a flood situation and praying to God for help. You know this story? So we have to ask Krishna for help. And then when he sends the help, we have to do some effort in order to get onto the boat or to get ourselves out of that situation. Krishna doesn't want us to be helpless, right? But if nothing else works and the devotee becomes truly desperate, then Krishna shows his help in more dramatic ways at that point. Yeah?
Like, yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So my question is, and I always, my questions typically come from reflecting on my parents and grandparents. So yes, everybody goes through troubles, but some devotees or human beings go through what you would call small troubles and not major hardships. That doesn't mean they are not thankful to Krishna. I mean, I think it's a blessing to be blessed, to have a blessed life also. So in that situation, we always hear that, Krishna, when Krishna wants to bring you closer to him, he will take away everything from you. And just looking at my grandparents and parents, while I've seen only my grandparents pass away and they were chanting the names of the Lord while passing away, my parents are still around, thankfully. What I'm trying to understand is, if you don't go through hardship and if Krishna doesn't take everything away from you, does it mean that Krishna is not going to let you get closer to him?
No. So, yes, sometimes we hear that, right? When Krishna shows special mercy, he takes everything away. Yes and no. The first thing we have to understand is, just because someone suffers doesn't mean they draw closer to Krishna. Only a pious soul will take shelter of Krishna in times of distress. Everyone in this world goes through suffering, very intense suffering. Only a very small number of those people turn towards God in that suffering. Such people are considered to be very special. Krishna says, Sukritina. They're very, very pious, very good people. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Just because something is being taken away doesn't mean it's God's hand at work. This world is just set up like that. Second thing is, sometimes some person gets more or less based on our past karma, right? And that's something that we talked about yesterday. Brahmaji says, Tattenu kampam susamikshamanam bhunjana evatmakritam vipakam. That a devotee has to recognize that I have to experience what is due to me. For someone, maybe it's less, someone, maybe it's more. But I've never seen anyone escape from this, right? It's going to come. Sometimes it comes earlier, sometimes it comes later. But that is there. It's part of our past karma, right? That's another thing. But then the third thing is that Krishna only gives us what we can handle. He'll never give us a test that we cannot pass, that we cannot succeed at. He only gives us what we can handle because he wants us to come out with flying colors. He wants us to ace the test. He wants us to grow closer to him. And if he breaks our back, then what's the use, right? So sometimes he gives more to those who are capable of more, right? Or who are ready for it. Last point. Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna gives his devotees trouble, sometimes great trouble, sometimes more trouble than is right. He really puts them, like the Pandavas, the 5 brothers. He really put them through too much. Queen Kunti. It's a life that's really hard, very, very hard. And Bhishma Dev, he asks this very question on his deathbed. The Pandavas are there, and he says, what's his word? How shocking it is, how amazing, I forget the exact word. He says, that you, who are the direct friends of the Supreme Lord, Arjuna is known as Krishna Sakha, Vijaya Sakha. You are Krishna's direct friends, that you had to go through so much. You do not deserve this. And Prabhupada explains in the purport why a devotee goes through so much. He says, one is to draw the devotee closer to him, but 2, to teach the world an example. Because Krishna knows that while everyone needs to suffer, when my devotee goes through this, they will show such a shining example of surrender that it will teach us, give all of us heart as we struggle through our own. When we see the example of Queen Kunti, of the Pandavas, when we see Srila Prabhupada's example, when we see the example of Kadambakananda Maharaj, or so many devotees, we too can look at it and go, yes, I can do it too. Right? When it comes from me, I can also do it by their example. We feel inspired. We see how a devotee walks through this world with so much dignity and so much confidence and so much pride in the Lord. So this is why Krishna does different kinds, different levels for different people. And sometimes he doesn't give much at all because that devotee is already serving him nicely, or he's already comfortable, or that devotee is not ready yet. So many reasons can be there. We cannot understand what is Krishna's mind, but we shouldn't worry. We shouldn't worry. If Krishna is not giving us trouble, we shouldn't worry. We should be very happy because there's enough trouble in this world. It'll come. Right? And if Krishna is giving us trouble, then we should not worry because he will not give us more trouble than we can handle.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, such a heart-touching, wonderful class. Thank you, Prabhu. So, what happens to people who are like, think no, God doesn't exist or worship not Krishna, someone else? So, does Krishna have any relation with them, or how does he reciprocate?
Yes. Yeah, Krishna has a relationship with every living being, a living entity. He says, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto mattas smritir jnanam apohana. I'm there in the heart of every living entity. And Krishna is our best friend. Suhridam sarva bhutana. He says, I'm the best friend of every living entity. Even the cockroach, Krishna is there in its heart, right? And he's guiding that living entity through that life for gradual improvement. So Krishna is everyone's friend, and he's always there for everyone. But he reciprocates in the way that we reciprocate with him. He says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyam. As someone comes to me, so I reciprocate accordingly. So if our attitude towards Krishna is, I don't want to know you, I don't want to have you, I don't want to be with you, then Krishna, he'll still help us, but he'll just hide, as he does. He'll do it from the background. He won't make himself obvious. In a devotee's life, Krishna makes it very obvious that he's helping. He'll do these amazing things that'll just touch the heart of a devotee. He'll put in a hook into our hearts and he'll grab us like that. There's this very nice story of a devotee who was practicing Krishna consciousness very sincerely for many years. And then at a certain point became distracted and left, and had a good career, made lots of money, and lived a good life, and so on. And but kind of gave up his connection with Krishna, and very studiously avoided Krishna. Like, that was a phase in my life, not coming back. And one day, one of his friends said, "I want to go to the Hare Krishna temple. And I heard you used to be connected to them. I'm a little nervous going on my own. Can you just go with me?" And he said, No, I don't do that thing anymore. This is another phase of my life. It's done. He said, come on. I'm not asking you to join again. I'm not joining. I just need a friend to go with me because I feel nervous going alone. And he pulled him. He said, all right, okay, I'll go. And so they went. And the whole time he was in the back and, keeping up his shield. Like, this is not me. No one knows me here. I don't know anyone here. Right? And then it was a Guru Puja happening. And the whole thing was taking place. And at the very last item, right, which was that day, it was the chamara whisk. And he saw the chamara go up into the air. And as it twirled around, and he saw that, all these memories and emotions came flooding back. And he broke down crying, saying, Krishna, where have I been? It's been so long, and I've been avoiding you. So much time has passed. I'm so sorry. Where did I go? And it all came back, right? Krishna had put a little hook in his heart. And just waited. He just waited, right? And when the time was right, he didn't know, but that whisk was the little hook. And when the time was right, he reeled him in and he couldn't stop, right? And now he's back and he's serving so nicely. So this can happen in our life also. It can happen in the lives of our kids, right? That sometimes the children, they might wander off. They become teenagers, they become independent, so on. But we have to remember that we've already placed those hooks. Krishna has done that. They're attached to Krishna's holy names. They're attached to prasad. And Krishna never forgets. He never forgets. Maybe an atheist, maybe someone who doesn't like him, maybe they've turned away from him. But Krishna always is there in the heart. He's just waiting. He's waiting for the right moment. And when he finds it, quickly he grabs the person again. Right? So.
Thank you, Prabhu. Wonderful.
Prabhuji.
I lost my dad when I was 17 and a half years old. And all his life, my dad was almost an atheist. Although he had done some work on simplifying Bhagavatam and all that towards the later part of his life. In the last 2 years of his life, he religiously chanted the 15th chapter. I almost knew that 15th chapter by heart. Even today, it just comes back to me. But once my dad was gone, I just didn't feel like going to temples or doing anything. Till I was back in US, in the middle of I did go to temples here and there, but were never connected. Once I came back to Silicon Valley, almost 12, 13, 14 years later, that's when I got connected. And till that time, I used to eat non-vegetarian, do everything. Like I used to drink, I used to have just normal, regular life. But somehow it got me, and then about a year later, I moved back to India. And after coming to ISKCON Silicon Valley, I left everything. Like me and my wife, we stopped eating non-veg, stopped drinking. Still not initiated yet, but got more connected. And it so happened that Anita's sisters got connected, and today both her sisters and us moving back to India. It's been almost 11 and a half years I'm coming back here. Like I bought a home 6 months back. So the level of engagement and the level of devotion that happens, right? It is not in your hands. It is all His mercy and His timing. For everybody who wants to talk about devotion and connectedness, tade jati, tannai jati, tad dure, tadvantike, tadantarasya sarvasya, tadyu, sarvasya bahita. So it's everywhere. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Very good. Wonderful. Other question? Okay.
Yeah, Prabhu. I have these for long time, and these are all bubbling last few months only, and luckily I had this class so that I could ask all these. So you are saying that Prahlad Maharaj is not asking anything, right? Because he's fully convinced 100% that he gets protection from Krishna. So when we are not asking anything, is that we are ignoring Krishna, or really 100% convinced that Krishna will protect us? How we will know what is that?
Well, this is a very good question, and the only one who can answer that question is ourselves, right? We have to be honest with ourselves. We cannot cheat Krishna, right? This is why we mentioned it's first better to go to Krishna and then to stop going for material things. Initially, if we don't go, then okay, maybe we're pure devotee from our previous life, right? Then anyway, we're born with 100% confidence. But if that is not the case, if we know that, oh no, I'm not a pure devotee from my last life, and we have some material desires, and we're not going to Krishna, then it means we're not taking shelter of him. Okay? We have to go to him first. Then we can develop enough confidence that we don't need to go to him at all for material things.
Thank you, Prabhu.
This is that verse. Akamo sarvakamo va moksha kamo dharati. Right? So,
Great Father, no question. Oh.
No.
So I apologize if you've addressed this in previous classes, so sorry. But when I was a little boy, I remember praying, and I would do that kind of regularly, and I didn't want to bother God. So later, though, I kind of held that throughout my life, and then when I was in Vrindavan, I got locked down there, and it was 5 months, and I heard an advanced devotee saying, we should just really talk to God on a regular basis. So when I started doing that, I started to do that. I found it to be extremely helpful. But is there any, and I appreciate your guidance with that, and I've learned that also along the way, following that guidance before you speak with God. So is there any limits there that should be made regarding that? Because I find this extremely helpful, but I don't want to cross some barriers that I shouldn't.
yes. It's a wonderful question. And it's are there any limits to how much we should speak to God and how frequently, so that we don't disturb him or bother him or too much, And yeah, it's a wonderful question. And the fact that you're asking that question means that you're going to Krishna not just for your sake, but also thinking about him. Right? Like where is he at in this relationship? Just like when you're talking to a friend and you're expressing yourself and you're feeling some relief. And it's nice to also be thinking, well, it's been 45 minutes and maybe they've got something else to do, right? So that's very generous. It's a generous heart that says, okay, let me think about the person to whom I'm speaking. A very selfless position. So it's wonderful that you're thinking that way. And it's very wonderful when a devotee does think about, oh, why should I trouble Krishna? But one thing we should know is that Krishna is never troubled by his devotees. Krishna gets all kinds of non-stop nonsense prayers. All the time, from the whole world, about all kinds of things that are merely business related. I don't mean like a devotee asking for protection or a devotee asking for help or more income, but just people bargaining with God, right? Like, I put $10 into the donation box. Can you help me win the lottery? Right? That's not a prayer. Like that's someone making business with God. And that's what 90% of the people in this world do when they go to church or temple or mosque or synagogue. So Krishna's life is already a cacophony of all kinds of things that he's dealing with, right? But so when his devotee comes to him for something, that's not trouble for him, right? He's so relieved, so happy to hear from his devotee. And we talked about this example yesterday of how when someone comes to you to make business, you have very little patience. Like, let's get it done and let's get it over. But you don't want to sit and prolong it. It's like either the deal's going to go through or it's not. But when a child comes to you asking for something, food or money or a toy or whatever, it's a different sort of exchange. Both are asking, right? Like if my employee comes to me and says, I want a raise. So I run a department. If someone is asking me for a raise, that's one thing. And if my child is asking me, can I get a few dollars to get some candy? That's a different thing. Both are asking for money, but it's a very different relationship. One is on the basis of business. I gave you something, I expect something in return. And the other is on the basis of dependence. I'm fully dependent upon you. Right? When an employee asks for the raise, there's something in the back. You give me, or else I'm going somewhere else. Right? This is it. This is over. Right? Okay, this time I'll take no, but not next time. Right? There's always a caveat there. But when we come to the Lord in dependence, like when a child comes, where else are they going to go? Right? Who else are they going to ask for their need? It may not be a great desire, but they're fully dependent on their parents. And so when a devotee comes to Krishna for something, if it's in the mood of dependence, which is typically how devotees go, it's not in the mood of business, then that stands out to Krishna. Krishna really appreciates that, even if it's not the most ideal thing, or even if it's a little convoluted, or we've got a lot going on and we're not so clear in our expression. Krishna doesn't mind. And Prabhupada explains this in the purport to, at the end of Queen Kunti's prayers, at the very end, there's a beautiful verse where after it's all done, it says, Krishna, after he heard the prayers of Queen Kunti, he smiled. And his smile was more enchanting than his own maya, his own energy, his own illusory energy. It was so, mohayan iva mayaya. It's a totally enchanting smile. And Prabhupada explains in the purport, he says that even if a devotee comes to Krishna with broken language or unclear language, Krishna is very pleased to hear from the devotee. Just like he says, a father is very pleased to hear the broken language of a small child. It's actually very attractive, very dear. So, Krishna doesn't mind. Krishna doesn't mind. And through that practice, we get better. We get better at doing it. And we see that in the example of Dhruva Maharaj, right? Where Dhruva Maharaj initially, he wants to say so much to Krishna when Krishna appears, and he doesn't know what to say. He's stuck. And so we often can be stuck. We don't know what to say, or we have a lot to say and it doesn't come out good. It's like convoluted and I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, Krishna. And then Krishna takes his conch shell and puts it on Dhruva Maharaj's head. And then all these beautiful words start to flow. So as we try to express ourselves to Krishna, then eventually he'll put his conch shell on our head and we'll have a better chance of saying something nice to Krishna that actually is worthy of his glorification. Because he's Uttama Shloka. He's the one who's glorified by the choicest prayers. And so we want to be able to live up to that. And we want to be able to offer prayers like that. But that ability itself will only come from Krishna. And it'll only come when we try to express ourselves to him. So there's no harm. There's no harm. Yes, please.
Can the reverse happen? Can the reverse happen? Let's say we have this relationship with Krishna and we've been praying since childhood to him, and we already had been through everything imaginable, got the t-shirt, we learned the lessons, and then things had become mellow and you're just peaceful now. You already, and you still continue these conversations with Krishna, these prayers. Can the reverse happen too, where you say that there's business transactions constantly going on in the world, but can Krishna do also the same and says, okay, now I need you to do this for me. I have a mission for you, a specific.
Yes, Krishna can definitely do that. And he does that with his devotees, who he feels he does it with all of us, actually. He gives us something to do. He tells us what he wants us to do. And for a devotee, that's not a business exchange. That's an opportunity to give back. Because remember that point of gratitude, right? That a devotee is always feeling, Krishna, you have given me so much in my life. How could I possibly repay you? Like every time I try to do something to express my gratitude, you just return it with so much extra mercy that then I'm even deeper in debt. And in this way, I always lose. So please tell me what I can do for you. And when Krishna does give a devotee something to do, it makes the devotee very happy. Like, yes, this is my chance to do something for Krishna. Right? So that reciprocation then happens from the point of view of gratitude. It's not a business demand from Krishna. I gave you so much, now it's your turn. Right? No. A parent never feels that way for the kids. On average, it says it takes about $100,000 to raise a child in the United States. Okay? So I'm just waiting for the day when I can send my kids the bill, right? And say, here it is, right? I spent, well, 100,000 each, so 200,000 total on you. But no parent does that, right? It's too much. That's not why the relationship happened, right? Yes, I do hope that one day the kids will make me proud. They'll do something for me. But it's a matter of reciprocation in the relationship. Oh, now I've grown up, I can do something for them because they've done so much for me in the course of our life. And that's a product of gratitude, not of business in a devotee's life. But when that occasion happens, when Krishna asks us to do something, it's the happiest day in a devotee's life. It's usually Krishna's asking us to do something that we don't feel capable of doing. Krishna usually asks us something that's a little more than we can handle. Because the stuff we can do easily, we're already doing for him.
And that is my greatest fear.
Yeah. But don't worry. When Krishna gives us a task, he gives us the empowerment to do it well also. Right? He gives us the ability to do it. He told Prabhupada to go to the West and preach something that was very unreasonable as a request for a 70-year-old Bengali gentleman in a new country. Very unreasonable request. And yet, Krishna gave him the ability to do it. He empowered him to do it wonderfully. Right? So Krishna, when he makes a request, he always brings with it all the tools and resources we need to do it. All we have to add is our willingness, is our surrender. That's all.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the lecture. So you made many references to Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj and how Krishna responds differently to each of these devotees. But I also can't help but remember how Dhruva Maharaj entered his relationship with Krishna with the materialistic mood, but he also, and Prahlad Maharaj on the other end, approached Krishna with a simple bhakti mood. So, and at the same time, it took significantly many more years for Dhruva Maharaj to see Krishna. So you say how Krishna responds differently.
For Dhruva or for Prahlad?
For Dhruva Maharaj through different penances and the continuous, the rituals and everything that he has had to do at a young age. So you say Krishna responds differently to each of these devotees through their relationship, but is it also because they had different moods in how they approached Krishna initially? That's why he took different or longer time, let's say, for Dhruva Maharaj to approach him. Thank you.
Yes. A very good question. Yes. So Krishna responds according to the mood of the devotee, and they had different moods, different reasons. Dhruva Maharaj was very, very ambitious materially. He wanted a lot from Krishna, and Krishna responded accordingly. He gave him a lot. And Prahlad Maharaj wanted nothing from Krishna except his association, and Krishna gave him his association in a very wonderful way. Right? So Krishna always responds in the way that the devotee desires. But even for Dhruva Maharaj, it didn't take a long time. 6 months is all it took. So he did his austerity. He was so determined. 6 months, and Krishna appeared before him. Right? So Krishna he's very expert. He's very expert in giving the devotee just what they want and just in the way they want at the right time that they need it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the nice class. My question is, when a devotee some devotees, the deathbed because of some disease, I often hearing saying that, they are suffering but not suffering, meaning, their soul is not crying, they are happy. But the outside world, it looks suffering. Could you please elaborate more on that, Prabhuji? Because I'm not in that level to understand that really, truly. How do I understand that?
Understand what?
Understanding, they are suffering but not suffering.
Yes. So there's a saying in English that says, the pain is inevitable, but the suffering is optional. Meaning that the physical trouble is going to come. It's going to hurt. This material body is going to hurt, right? Even we know with Srila Prabhupada's case, how much pain he went through, right, with the heart attack, and later with other procedures, and then he had a stroke. So the physical pain is there. It's part of the material world. And sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's relational. So it's not that the pain isn't there, but for a devotee, the suffering is mitigated, meaning that a devotee recognizes that this pain, this trouble, is not coming from Maya, is not coming from Satan. It's not being given by some impersonal force of nature. This is being given directly by Krishna's hand. And therefore, it's a different experience. I'll give you an example. Just like if an intruder were to come into the middle of the night into my house, right? And we enter, I start wrestling or have a fight with him, right? And I'm punching him and he's punching me, we're pushing, we're taking out weapons and so on. It's really scary, it's very dangerous, and I get hurt in the process. That same wrestling experience, if I'm wrestling with a friend or I'm wrestling with my kids, in the process, we may punch each other, we may get hurt, but it's a totally different experience, right? The same activity when done with someone I know cares for me, and where the purpose is to love me rather than to harm me. So for a devotee gets all the same punches that everyone else gets. Right? All the same. But it's coming from a friend. You're wrestling with God, right? Isn't there a story in the Bible also of who is it that wrestles with God? Anyone know the Bible? Anyway, it's a very nice story. I forget. There's one nice saint or prophet who's wrestling with God in the middle of the night. God comes to him. Yeah. Yeah. So a devotee recognizes this is Krishna, right? He's wrestling with me. And in the process, if he punches me, it's okay. It's coming from a hand that loves, not a hand that kills or harms. So therefore, it's a different experience for the devotee.
So you said that Krishna protected his devotees. What if the devotee started protecting himself? Would Krishna still protect the devotee, or would he not?
Yes, very good question. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Paurusham Nishu, I am the ability in a human being. When a devotee defends themselves, guess who gives the devotee the energy, the power, the intelligence to defend themselves? Krishna does, right? So Krishna is always protecting. And most of the time, he protects the devotee through the devotee's own effort. Right? Most of the time, when we're in trouble, from 90% of things, we can deal with it, we can handle it. But the intelligence, the ability, the strength, the courage to handle it is still coming from Krishna. He says, I am the intelligence in all intelligent people. I am the strength of the strong. I am the ability in man. He says, I am that thing that allows us to be expert at what we do. So definitely, number one, we should protect ourselves. And number two, when we protect ourselves, that's Krishna helping us. Okay. There's one new question there.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. For a non-Krishna consciousness devotee who would like to know more about that, what would be your advice when they are in dilemma of for materialistic desires, worshipping on demigods, or going through Krishna? So doing daily artis for Lakshmi Mata or Ganesh Ji or Shiv Ji. So what would be your advice for them to, decide and ask? Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, good question. All of these things you described are good things, right? Krishna says only those in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. So this is very positive, very nice activity for us to be able to submit, to understand that their power is greater than us. Krishna doesn't ask us to give up anything. He just asks us to add him to the mix, right? So initially, I would just encourage whoever that person is to worship Krishna also. And particularly to worship him by chanting his Krishna's holy names, by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. When we add Krishna to the mix, he's the one before all the zeros. Where everything in this world without Krishna is zero. But those zeros have value. You put a 1 before them, and all of a sudden they become a million, right? So we put Krishna in front of those activities, and all of a sudden they have so much value. So 2 suggestions I have. One is that you can encourage them to add Krishna, and particularly through the chanting of Krishna's names, through kirtan or through japa. And also you can offer them some prayers from Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita has beautiful prayers to all the different demigods. And they are praised in relationship to Krishna, how they are related to them. So even the devas become very happy. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Okay, shall we do this final question? Okay. The ultimate question. I don't know. Satyasapu was in charge. Who's in charge? Should we? I'm happy to continue all night, but I think all of you have had a long day. Okay. Okay, good. Yes.
So sometimes we have some desire, but we don't really pray to Krishna specifically, but we just desire, I wish I get this. And we actually get it. So it's like Krishna running in the background, fulfilling it, because we have not explicitly asked for it.
Yes. Oh, really? So Krishna's working in the background here.
Yeah, okay, I got the answer.
The super soul in the heart. Yeah, actually, we don't have to say it. And most, when we become advanced in bhakti, then we don't say it. We know Krishna understands and he fulfills the desire within the heart. In fact, in the story of Dhruva Maharaj, remember, Dhruva Maharaj sees Krishna and he says, I don't want anything now. I just want you. And Krishna says, no, you're going to enjoy this kingdom because I know you want it. Inside, deep inside, you want it, right? So usually he knows our desire before we know it. And he knows it better than we know it. We say, Krishna, I really want that job. And Krishna says, no, I don't think you want that job. What you're actually looking for is this one here, right? And then we get it and we say, oh yeah, you're right. That's the one I wanted, right? So Krishna knows our desires. And sometimes even when we ask for it, he fulfills a different one that we didn't even realize that was our actual desire. Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhu, amazing. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes. So,
Satyarupa Prabhu.
Yeah, the same actually. Like, so whatever the things happening, so it is happened. We desired and happened, but we didn't ask Krishna. So, like, can we consider that as a library of sanctions given to us by Krishna?
yes. Yes, definitely. Krishna works in magical ways. And when we see him acting, a devotee, something wonderful happens, a devotee always gives credit to Krishna for that. And so we can certainly add it into our mix.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I'll mention is that if we want to make our prayers more effective, there are certain techniques that we can use. And one of those techniques, Prabhupada actually explains this. He says, Krishna fulfills desires very nicely, very easily when we are in the holy dham. And Prabhupada explains that the holy dham means Vrindavan, it means Mayapur, and it means Krishna's temple. anywhere. That temple exists. Then in that place, if we pray, we're praying to Krishna in his home. He's very easily responds to prayers. I remember one time I took a group of students to India and from my university, and we went to Vrindavan. And I told them that people here say, the pilgrims say, that anything you wish for here comes true. And one of my students raised his hand right away. And he said, I have a desire. I said, oh, what it is? He said, my primary purpose in coming on this trip to India is I want to handle a monkey. Our bus going from Delhi to Vrindavan, we barely had entered the boundary of brunch. Stopped for a rest stop. Everyone gets out. There's a man who comes with a langur, this big monkey, on a leash, walks, there's a bus of, this is 40 students in 2 buses, 42 students, walks directly up to this boy and says, here, hold this. And you should have seen his face. He was like, oh my gosh, Professor Gupta, this is true. This is true. I said, so be very careful what you ask for here. So,
I love that. I have a story. I know I know long, but when I was in Vrindavan, we were on parikrama. I was with Guru Prasad Swami. He was leading a parikrama. And I mean, I had multiple experiences where I did a prayer and it was immediately answered. But this one, I'm going to share this one. So we were near Radhakund and Shamakund. In this parikrama, and I remember looking at Shamakund. We were particularly at this little temple right next to Shamakund, and I was looking at Shamakund. I was thinking, oh, Krishna, we're just rushing through this so quickly. I wish I could just have a chance to just sit here and chant and look at this and just be here, be with Shamakund, the Shamakund here, and just, be present and just take everything in. So some people were dipping their beads. We were finishing up at that section, and I went to go dip my beads, and I was one of the, last people to do. And when I looked up, everybody was gone. I was like, okay, I'm behind. Let me go check the nearest temples. Couldn't find anybody. The whole group had left, and I couldn't find them. I looked all around. I checked the temple, like all the little temples, everything, and I couldn't find them. And I looked for, at least, 40 minutes, and I was like, all right, well, I can't find them. And then I look, and I was like, all right, well, Krishna really answered that prayer really quickly. So I sat and I chanted. I'm like, they're going to come back for me. I chanted there for an hour and a half. They never came back for me. And that's when I got nervous, and I was like, oh, Krishna, okay, this has been nice, but they're my ride back. I don't know how to get back on my own. And then I started praying desperately. I was like, oh, Krishna, please help me. Help me. Because I don't know how to get back to Vrindavan, so help me, please. And immediately when I made that prayer, I saw a devotee, the mother of a devotee friend of mine. His mother was there. I only saw her in a picture. I had never met her in person. And I just walked over and approached her, and I was like, are you so-and-so's mother? And she's like, oh, Hare Krishna, yeah. Our group, we just happened to be on our way. We did parikrama. We're on our way back to Vrindavan. My friend here, she could take you with her, no problem. And I was, but before we do that, we're going to be taking a dip in Radhakund right now. So you should come join us. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not qualified. Just no, nonsense. She's actually, she was the wife of that one famous Sanskrit Prabhupada disciple who had the school in Govardhan.
Oh, Gopi Pran.
Yeah, Gopi Pran. It was his wife. And I told her, no, Mataji, I'm not qualified. And she's like, no, nonsense. No, I'm, I live here. So I'm technically resident here. You have, my blessings. Let's go. So we went to the little ghat. What was it? That little one that, what's her name? It's famous for that one famous saint who would take bath there. She would, I'm sorry.
Janava Devi?
Janavi Devi. Sorry, I'm really bad. And so we went there, and I just got to take bath and offer prayers and everything to Radhika, and then I was taken back. So Krishna will definitely answer your prayers, from my experience too. So
Indeed. Right. So I just want to say thank you very much. I'm heading back tomorrow morning to Utah. I'm so grateful for this time that you have given to listening, but also to giving me your association. I feel so inspired, really, genuinely, to be in this community, to hear all your wonderful questions and comments and experiences. It's really been an uplifting experience. And so thank you so much for this opportunity to glorify Krishna and to spend some time with you. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, a quick class summary and thank you note. Abhachan Prabhu going to give Prabhu.
Absolutely wonderful class, Prabhu. I mean, always. And I'm just thinking, what should I speak? And I just jotted down some notes. Mr. Thank you. And I'm feeling like Dhruva Maharaj standing in front of the Lord and thinking, I don't know what to say. I'm hoping the conch shell will come and hit my head. Maybe I'll speak something. Thank you, Prabhu, very much. I mean, like, it's your presence is always very, very special to all of us. I guess I'll just jot down some notes. So we started with how we have to set our expectations. It's not that we are Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruva Maharaj, we can expect that Lord will just come out of the pillar and protect us. So that's one thing. I think that was one of the best points. I really feel that way because we all have that expectation that Krishna will protect, and if he doesn't, maybe I'm not a good devotee, or maybe I'm not qualified, or maybe Krishna is not there. So that feeling is there. Thank you so much for setting that expectation. And how you gave the 4 devotees example of the devotee who is from Europe and Kadmankan Maharaj's experience. That was really very touching. It's very touching. Though we know, but it's hearing from you, it was very touching. So that was one thing. And even the Alzheimer's, I can vouch for it. I forget many things. So, but he is not forgetting Krishna. So we have a hope to really remember Krishna even with us. And also like how we realize that Krishna will always protect. His ways may be different, but his protection is guaranteed. So thanks for giving us that thing. And also I like how we hear Krishna. So hearing through Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. That is, I think that was a highlight I felt that you gave us, because we don't want to start singing that, oh, if Krishna is not coming from anywhere, maybe that don't have help. Devotees come. And I really resonate with the point that you said that if you just open the book, Krishna actually Prabhupada speaks. And I'm sure everyone has that experience. Sometimes we have so many questions and we turn on Prabhupada's lecture and somehow Prabhupada says, hey, this is what you want to hear. That experience is very, very, I resonate with that. And thanks for explaining compassion in such a nice way, that Krishna is actually trembling with us. That it may now, I said, if we go in front of the deities, we can actually feel that, yes, Krishna is with me. Thanks for making us feel that way. Thank you, bro. And the most thing one is like how to even see even in the bad things. That's that if I can see the gratefulness, if I can feel gratefulness in bad things, then probably we are making some progress. Thanks. And from yesterday, I just want to say one point where you mentioned the broken glasses. The way you explained, it actually really touched my heart. And I'll think twice when I do any material activity. So broken glasses are very shiny, but they'll cut you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please do come more often, bro. We had to wait 5 years. Rich.
Yeah, hopefully you'll have a temple soon.
That's all for tonight, Prabhu. Devotees, you can collect prasad while you are going. Hare Krishna.
Right, this. I will. Helps you when you write it down. It helps you memorize and take in the information better.
Go ahead. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Where is the kartal? Excuse me, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Excuse me, Arjun sir. Hare Krishna. Abhay Jairam Prabhu. Where is the other mic, Prabhu? Other mic? Oh, okay. I'm just trying to see if you're going to sing. I hope the range will be.
I'm a senior. Okay. Ready to make? Yeah. Like pure math like you. Pure math like you. Oh, really? My favorite class is Speed and Foundation. Yeah. Good luck. Let me know where you decide to go. Maybe University of Utah. Utah. Wow. How old are you? You got me. Which one to me? I took only the 4 digits you asked. Many other things left.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,